Hey everyone, so today we're going to talk about a tiny computer that had a truly massive legacy, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It was small, it was a little bit weird, but with just 48 kilobytes of RAM, it kicked off a full-blown revolution right from people's bedrooms, and it completely changed the game for technology at home.
You know, this quote just nails it. The whole point of the Spectrum wasn't about being the fastest or the most powerful machine out there. No, it was about smashing the barrier to entry and getting computing power into the hands of regular people for the very first time.
And this was the secret weapon. 175 pounds in 1982. I mean, to put that into perspective, its competitors were easily 2, sometimes 3 times that price. This wasn't just a feature, it was the entire strategy. And it was the key that unlocked the door to home computing for millions.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1982, April to be exact. The UK is about to meet a machine that would go on to create an entire generation of self-taught programmers, the now famous bedroom coders. And this difference in approach was, well, everything. While the American companies were in this arms race for bigger specs and more power, Sinclair's whole game was about one thing: accessibility. This low-cost approach didn't just sell a computer, it created a whole ecosystem, pretty much launching the UK's video game industry from scratch. But here's the thing. The machine itself was, let's be honest, far from perfect. Actually, the real story of the Spectrum is the story of its limitations. But these weren't seen as flaws. Oh no. They were creative puzzles that programmers had to solve in the most brilliant ways imaginable. Just take a look at these specs. That 48 KB of RAM, that's the whole story right there. Every single byte mattered. And the sound? A one-channel beeper. Not exactly an orchestra, is it? Developers had to squeeze absolute magic out of this very, very humble hardware.
And actually using one experience. You have this bizarre rubber keyboard that people famously said felt like dead flesh. You had to wait, sometimes for 5 minutes or more, listening to this piercing screech as a game loaded from a regular cassette tape. And then you had the infamous color clash.
So, to save that precious RAM, the Spectrum couldn't afford to give every single pixel its own color. Instead, it applied color to an entire block of 8 by 8 pixels all at once. It was a really clever memory-saving trick, but boy did it have a noticeable side effect. And this explains it perfectly. So imagine your little red hero is walking across the screen. The second they move into the same 8 by 8 pixel block as that green wall, the whole block has to share the same 2 colors. So suddenly, a chunk of the green wall just turns red. That right there was the signature, unmistakable look of the ZX Spectrum. But here's the crucial part. The Spectrum wasn't just for playing games, it was for making them. Every single machine came with a programming language built right in, Sinclair BASIC. And that meant every user was a potential creator.
It worked a little differently from what we're used to today. You didn't type out whole commands, you just pressed a single key. The P key, for example, would give you the entire print command. This was unbelievably efficient for the machine, saving memory and, as a bonus, stopping you from making typos.
And you could create something really fun with just a tiny bit of code. I mean, look at this. This program asks for your name, and then it just starts flashing it all over the screen in random colors with these little beeping sounds. This was instant feedback. It was the magic of telling a machine what to do and watching it happen right before your eyes. So how does it work? It's pretty simple, really. First, the computer just dreams up some random numbers for a position on the screen and a color. Then it prints your name right there. But the real magic, the secret ingredient, is that last line, go to 50. That one command creates an infinite loop. It tells the computer, go back and do it all again and again forever. So simple, but so incredibly powerful. So when you put these tools in the hands of thousands of people, you get an absolute explosion of creativity. Let's look at some of the mind-blowing games that were built, not just in spite of the Spectrum's limitations, but in many ways because of them.
First up, we have to talk about Night Lore. When this game came out in 1984, it just completely shattered what people thought was even possible on a little home computer.
And that is not an exaggeration. Before Night Lore, games were pretty much flat, two-dimensional things. This game literally introduced a whole new perspective to the world of gaming. It used this revolutionary new engine to create a 3D isometric world that you could actually explore. And you've got to see the clever trick they pulled. The graphics are monochromic, using just one main color per room. Why'd they do that? To completely sidestep the machine's color clash problem. I mean, that is pure genius.
Okay, next up is a game with just a staggering level of ambition. Elite. This wasn't just a map or a few levels, we're talking about an entire galaxy in a box. And to put that in modern terms, think about these massive space exploration games we have today. Well, Elite was their granddaddy, and it was born all the way back in 1985.
Now, this is the part that will just blow your mind. It was a fully 3D open universe with multiple galaxies that were all procedurally generated. And the whole thing, the entire universe, fit into just 48 kilobytes of RAM. That's a feat of programming so incredible it's still kind of hard to believe today.
And finally, let's look at a game that just shouldn't have been possible, period. This was a direct conversion of the smash hit arcade shooter, R-Type.
See, arcade machines had all this specialized, expensive hardware just for handling tons of moving objects and smooth scrolling. The Spectrum had? Well, none of that. It was never, ever designed for this kind of frantic, fast-paced action. And yet, somehow, the developers pulled it off. They somehow managed to get these large, colorful sprites and smooth scrolling working on hardware that was fighting them every single step of the way. They used these unbelievably clever coding tricks to minimize that dreaded color clash and deliver an experience that felt just like you were standing in the arcade.
So, what's the big takeaway from this little computer with the rubber keys? Well, its impact goes way beyond just a bunch of classic games. It taught an entire generation how computers really work from the ground up.
When you look back, the story of the ZX Spectrum really leaves us with this one powerful idea. It's proof that sometimes having less memory, less power, fewer colors, is the very thing that forces us to be more clever, more innovative, and way more creative than we ever thought we could be.